And thank you for joining me. This is K9 and playing Empyrion Galactic Survival. And what we're going to do this morning is I'm going to attempt to show you how to put a plane together. And I'll probably speed up sections of this and heavily edit parts so it doesn't get too long. Famous last words. But here's the thing you'll need is you're going to need a bunch of parts for your plane, and it takes certain special parts, all of which I've pretty much amassed here, and I already had this thing built once. And the problem with that is when I built it, the base I built it on would not let go of it, couldn't fly it, had to take the whole thing apart. Not fun. But here's a really cool thing about Empyrion is I'm standing on my base. If I just target anything on my base and hit P, it will take me into the base main page and show me the devices where I can access my advanced constructor by having it selected, hitting the access key, go to where I can build something and throw the parts in and then build it. And here's the parts for my core from the last version. And to get started on a small vessel, which is what I'm going to build today, capital vessel I built, which is over here, took me days. I'm not going to walk you through that, but I'll see if I can get a small vessel done pretty quick, or at least started. You need this particular mechanism which allows you to connect blocks to it, and you have to start there. Once you have that, you can kind of get started. Let's see, here's how I like to work with this, is I like to set that first block up on a few of these on my base, and in so doing, in so doing I can get at and around it without too much trouble, and hopefully put some landing gear on it, take the blocks out and set it down. Last time I did that it didn't work, but we'll see this time. So what we'll need first, we are definitely going to need thrusters. Need a ventilator to get oxygen into it. I'm going to be using the larger engines this time. Actually, those are a little too complex. I'll show you with the smaller engines and I'll replace them. For structural, to build the body of the plane and the framework of the plane, you'll probably need some truss blocks and some steel blocks. And once you have an advanced constructor, you can make hardened steel blocks, which of course take many more hit points, like this, hardened steel. I usually start flushing them out with this because they're easier, cheaper, and faster to build, and then as the plane gets shot up and have to replace plates, I replace them with this stuff. That way I find out what gets shot at. Of course, we'll need a fuel tank. We will need generators. We will need oxygen tank. I like to put an oxygen station on my planes, so while I'm out, if I'm running low on oxygen, I can fill up my suit again. I like to put a mobile constructor on there. You will need these RCS engines, which allow you attitude control. I like to put a fridge on there so I can carry food with me that doesn't spoil. Some ammo boxes. And we'll come back for the lights and landing gear and stuff. Take some wing components with us. And we'll come back for the rest of that. And some storage boxes. Okay, so here's the thing, is you can go into your advanced constructor through the base from any location. My advanced constructor is actually down on the first floor of my building over here, and I can access it through the base. But here's what you want to use to build stuff, is hit your F5 key, and this little thing called your drone loads up, and you can control this thing very much like a plane, and you don't have to climb on anything or get under anything. Like I built this pit to get under my first plane so that I can get at the bottom of it, fix it, and design it and stuff like that. And here's the first plane. But as you can see, you can be very mobile with this drone and get to places that you don't need ladders, you don't need to climb on top of stuff, but you do need to maintain radio communication, as you can see. So here's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put a couple of these blocks down like this. maybe one in the middle. I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to place my starter. And the thing about the starter is it tends to be lined up on me, if you'll notice. I'm standing there and it's square to me the way I'm facing, so I'm going to turn this thing off for a minute. Make sure my jetpack is on, jump up on these blocks and see if I can get this thing set up straight. Okay, there's our starter block. Everything you do actually connects to this thing. And it's a good thing when you're building stuff to just check what it's designed for. Like I'll look at this thing, it says cockpit, but it also says placeable on a CV, capital vehicle. I cannot place this on the size vehicle that I'm trying to design. So as you're looking for passenger seat, well, there's one here that's on small vehicles and hover vehicles, and there's another passenger seat over here, but it's specifically for capital vehicles. So check that before you start clicking things off. Here's my SV cockpit block. We'll get that running. And if you want to see what parts are specifically for small vessels, they allow you to sort up here. I'll just click this off, go up to the top of the list, and that's what will actually fit on a small vessel. Alright, now's a good time to start using my drone. And when you hit your tab key, it takes you into your inventory just like any other time. You just have the ability to move around very, very freely. Now, here's how I started this and put the cockpit on top of here, but I thought it made the ship too thick. It also when you're getting shot at, it also puts this core, which is in the middle of that, which will, you know, if they shoot that apart, your ship is done. You have to have the core to function. But if you put that under your cockpit, it's basically right at the bottom of the ship and is very susceptible to being shot at. So I like to, you can either put the cockpit right on the front of it, but you don't have to start with the cockpit. I could actually move this back a little bit. This tool, called a multi-tool, has several different functions to it. If you right-click, you can disassemble something, which means it puts it intact back in your inventory, very handy. You can deconstruct something, which actually breaks it down into its build components, which when you're tearing apart bases and looking for the enemy's resources rather than spending your own, that works real nice. You can upgrade something, which allows you to change the transparency on windows and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Oh no, this is the one that changes the transparency, change and rotate. I'm not quite sure what this one is. You might be able to upgrade blocks with something better. I haven't tried that one yet. And then repair something. This one you'll always need. But for building, if you put something in an errant area and need to change it, I usually just deconstruct it. It comes back in my inventory and I can put it back where I found it. Alright, so what am I going to do with this? Let's put a cockpit in place. My voice is kind of raspy. I haven't been feeling well, so try and do this. So here's how I start these things, and I usually start with a structure down the center, and I use the steel building frames. Let's see what they're called. They're called truss blocks, and I usually put that in the middle. And the reason I put that in the middle is, one, so I can build around it and have something to attach stuff to. And I'll build this all the way out to the tail section. And by the way, your drone moves with the standard move keys of W for forward, S for backwards, A and D for left and right, and Q and E for bank left and right on a keyboard. But I'll build this truss section all the way back to where I expect the tail to be. And I'm going to end up using larger engines, so I'll make it pretty long. And then I start assembling the necessary portions of this thing, maintaining a level of symmetry left to right, simply because I know it works. It's going to need a ventilator. There's only one of those. You can install two. just in case one gets shot, you still have oxygen. Not a bad idea if you want to go through the bother of doing two. Other things there are one of is an O2 station, a refrigerator, and the mobile constructor. The mobile constructor is accessible through the page when you hit your P key and target anything you've built. This is my base, but through the devices page you can actually get to the components of this particular ship. I think I can do it on here with my drone. Yeah, this is my Avenger 3. That's the ship we're looking at. Devices, and you can go through here and look at your different devices. The constructor can be accessed remotely. However, and I've got a little bit of a complaint, your O2 station cannot. And I think it should be. What I've been having to do on this one is actually cut through an exterior plate to get to my O2. Less than convenient, but that'll be one of the suggestions I offer the developers on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start placing a few of these things. Ventilator I usually put right behind the cabin. And then start working with other things like my RCS engines. You also need thrusters, not to be overlooked when you're putting things together. And although these things that you build will look like a plane, it's really not a plane. It's really more of a hovercraft, in that spacecraft, in that you will have thrusters on all 6 sides of this thing, top, bottom, left, right, front, and back. And it will not move in any direction unless you have thrusters that push against that direction. And if you haven't built anything before, go over to your insert key and you can change the axis around which you move things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this thing from pointing up to pointing down. So this particular axis will get me there. It will rotate around this axis when I hit either the home or the page, or the home or the end key. And just to show you how it moved, let me see. There you can see it move that way. And now that nozzle is facing down. I could put it like this, but that puts it sticking out, I believe, the bottom of my plane. So I'm going to go into the plane a little bit more like this, and I'm going to install this one this way and put another matching one on the other side. Now I haven't built with that particular thruster at the front of the plane yet. I'm going to see how that one works. as long as you work symmetrically, as many left to right, etc. Most of my important components are either in the middle from top to bottom or on top of the plane. Less likely they're going to be shooting at the top of my plane, but I am going to put some panels over top of it and kind of shield them. Most of the stuff they can hit on the bottom of the plane is less than important, except that core. I wouldn't mind being able to move that core. I haven't figured out how to do that from the bottom of the plane yet. So we need some thrusters. We will need some engines. But let's see, we've got, just to show you, to get to the point where it's flying, show you the thrusters. We've got these two large ones that are facing down on either side. We've got two on the left and right and facing down. So top and bottom are done. Left and right are started. I like to put another pair of them back here. Left and right. Let's do that now. That thruster block is not going to stay like that. I'll move those around strategic locations on the plane more like I did up front. But we can get the thing up off the ground, push it back down to the ground, move it left, move it right, move it forward. We can't move it back yet. That's what I'm missing. I'm going to take two thrusters real quick, or maybe just one. Place it here so I can back this machine up. And now you have thrusters facing in every direction. You can move this thing around. Believe it or not, this thing can fly. It can fly now. So let me show you that. Hit my F5 key, get out of my drone. Show you I do already have fuel in my inventory. So I'm going to take a few of these, maybe 4 or 5 of them. Go do a short flight. Hit your 0 key to select no tools. Come over here to one of my fuel tanks, target it, hit my P key, access, and put a little fuel in this thing. Maybe a lot of fuel in this thing, and come over to my cockpit, hit F to get in, P, main, power on, and your space key takes you up. That easy. Alt Z to look around, and you know, you basically have thrusters on the bottom, thrusters left and right, thrusters push it back down, thrusters push it forward, and a thruster to push it back, and you can move this thing around. Like I said, these aren't really planes in that you know, you're working with aerodynamics. It's just thrust vectoring. You can fly the thing around. The rest is pretty much aesthetics.